Women don't care what you do for them. They are loyal to one thing. Only psychology tricks. Love is not something you do. Love is something you understand. Let me tell you a truth that can sting, but it can also set you free. A lot of men believe this. If I do enough for her, she'll stay. If I sacrifice more, she'll appreciate me. If I treat her perfectly, she'll be loyal. But that's not how loyalty usually works, because many women don't attach loyalty to effort the way men do. They don't bond deeper just because you proved yourself with endless giving. In fact, when a man keeps trying to buy security with constant favors, gifts, and over-sacrifice, something dangerous can happen. She stops feeling like she's with a man and starts feeling like she's being managed by a man who is afraid to lose her. And here's the part most men miss. Women can be extremely loyal, just not to nice things. They're loyal to what they feel with you, to the emotional reality you create, to the psychology of how you lead, how you carry yourself, and how safe plus alive she feels in your presence. That's why two men can treat a woman very differently. And she still craves the one who has strong boundaries, calm, confidence, and a clear sense of self. So if you've been confused, like, why am I giving more and getting less? It's because loyalty isn't a reward for service. Loyalty is a response to value, direction, emotional strength, and identity. Stay with me, because when you truly understand what women attach loyalty to relationships, stop feeling like a mystery and start feeling like something you can navigate with clarity. Most men are taught a lie early, and often one. The lie. We're all taught. And it sounds gentle, reasonable, almost noble. Be nice, be supportive, do more, give more, and she will stay. So you lean in, you invest your time, your energy, your attention, your money, your patience, your listening, ear, your emotional effort, and at first, it seems to work. She smiles. She thanks you, she enjoys the comfort, she benefits from the safety, and you think you've cracked the code, but don't confuse appreciation with loyalty, and don't mistake comfort for desire, because those are not the same currency, and they never have been. And here is where many men quietly lose their footing without realizing it. Because doing more feels productive, it feels controllable, it feels like progress, yet attraction does not grow on a ledger of favors. And love does not deepen, because you emptied yourself to keep someone warm. That is not how human connection works, and certainly not how female psychology responds over time. So, be careful with the story you tell yourself. Be careful with the belief that effort alone creates attachment, because effort without direction slowly turns into obligation, and obligation suffocates curiosity, and curiosity is the doorway to desire. You must understand that a woman does not bond to what you do for her, as much as how she feels about herself when she is with you. That is the quiet truth men are rarely told, and it explains why so many relationships drift even when the man did everything right, because he was busy performing while forgetting to remain a person with his own gravity, his own standards, his own emotional center, and no amount of generosity can replace that. So, don't chase approval by overgiving, don't bargain for closeness with sacrifice, and don't assume that being endlessly available makes you valuable, because value is not created by depletion, it is created by presence, by direction, by emotional steadiness, by a sense that you are choosing her rather than clinging to her. That is the difference that matters. And this is where psychology tricks are often misunderstood, because real psychology tricks are not manipulative games or clever lines. They are insights into how the human nervous system responds to confidence, mystery boundaries, and self-respect. And when you ignore those dynamics, you end up working harder for less connection, which feels unfair and exhausting, and slowly resentment creeps in, even if you never say it out loud. So stop telling yourself that giving more will fix the distance. Stop assuming that silence means you should try harder, and stop believing that love is something you earn through service alone, because how to fall in love is not about accumulation, It is about resonance. It is about two people meeting without one shrinking to keep the other comfortable. And when a man loses his center when he orbits entirely around her needs, something subtle changes in the emotional climate. She may not be able to explain it, but she feels it, because female psychology is deeply attuned to emotional balance, to polarity, to the sense that the man in front of her has a life, a direction, a grounded sense of self that does not dissolve under pressure. And when that disappears, attraction fades quietly, not out of cruelty but out of natural emotional response. So, be steady, be grounded, be clear about who you are and what you value. That is not selfishness, that is stability. And stability is what creates safety without killing desire. And yes, you can be kind, you can be generous, you can be attentive, but do it from abundance, not from fear. Do it because you choose to, not because you are afraid of losing her, because fear leaks through behavior, no matter how polite you try to be, and it shifts the dynamic from mutual interest to quiet dependency. And dependency never creates passion, it only creates tolerance. So don't over-explain yourself, don't over-apologize for existing, don't rush to fix every emotion that is not yours to carry. Because strength in relationships is not loud, and it is not controlling. It is calm, it is patient, it is rooted, and it invites rather than pleads. And when you understand this, psychology, tricks stop being tricks and start being clarity. You stop trying to manage her feelings and start managing your own. You stop asking, like, what more can I do, and start asking, who am I becoming in this connection? And that shift alone changes everything. Because how to fall in love is not about convincing someone to stay. It is about creating an emotional space where staying feels natural, not forced, not negotiated. And this is why so many men are confused when relationships cool, despite their best efforts, because they were taught to equate love with labor. Yet attraction responds to energy, to direction, to emotional leadership, not in a controlling sense, but in the sense of being at peace with yourself. So, be a man who listens, yes, but also be a man who stands. Be a man who gives, yes, but also be a man who withholds when giving would cost his self-respect, because boundaries are not walls. They are filters, and they allow the right connection to deepen while preventing you from disappearing in the process. And that is the deeper lesson hidden beneath all discussions of female psychology and psychology tricks, that the goal is not to outsmart anyone. The goal is to stop abandoning yourself in the hope that someone else will stay, because when you remain whole, when you remain anchored, when your life does not collapse around one person, something remarkable happens. She feels your presence more strongly, not because you are doing more, but because you are being more. And that is what loyalty quietly responds to. Not comfort alone, not endless effort, but a man who knows who he is, where he is going, and invites her to walk beside him, not carry him, not rescue him, not validate him. And when you embody that, you no longer need to rely on psychology tricks as tactics, because your way of being does the work for you. And how to fall in love stops being a mystery and becomes a natural outcome of emotional balance, mutual respect, and grounded connection. That does not require you to give yourself away to keep someone close. 2. The core. Truth about female loyalty. The core truth about female loyalty is simple, but it is not comfortable, and most men never hear it clearly enough. Women are loyal to how a man makes them feel about themselves, not his effort, not his loyalty, not his consistency. Those things can be appreciated, even admired, but they are not the anchor. Loyalty is emotional, not logical. That is where many men quietly lose their footing. They assume loyalty is earned the same way respect is earned at work, by proving value, by doing more, by showing reliability again and again. But female psychology does not respond to effort the way male logic expects it to. A woman does not wake up and say, "He did more today, so I'll feel closer." She feels closer when she feels more alive, more grounded, more confident, more herself in his presence. That is the invisible exchange most men miss, and that misunderstanding drains their energy over time. Don't confuse effort with impact. Don't assume consistency creates attraction. Be clear about this. Attraction is not built through repetition of sacrifice. When a man starts over giving to secure loyalty, something subtle but powerful shifts. He signals fear of loss. He signals that he is trying to hold something together with effort instead of presence. And fear kills attraction. Not because women are cruel or calculating, but because fear changes emotional gravity. When you are constantly trying to prove your worth, ask yourself an honest question. What are you really communicating? That you don't believe you are already enough, that you need to compensate, that if you stop performing, she might leave. That is not confidence. That is anxiety. Wearing a polite smile. You may never say it out loud, but emotion speaks louder than words. Female psychology picks up on tone, pacing, tension, and intention, long before logic enters the room. Be a man who understands this without resentment. That is the mark of a high value man. A high value man does not chase loyalty. He creates an emotional environment where loyalty makes sense. He doesn't try to attract women by exhausting himself. He attracts women by being anchored in who he is. That is masculine energy, not forceful, not loud, not performative, but grounded, calm, and self-directed. Masculine energy is emotional steadiness. It is the ability to stay centered when things are uncertain. It is knowing that your worth is not up for negotiation. Every time emotions fluctuate, when you hold that center, women feel it. They feel safer. They feel clearer. They feel more themselves. And that feeling is what loyalty attaches to, not your checklist of sacrifices. Don't over-explain your value. Don't rush to prove your importance. Be present instead. That is harder than it sounds. Presence requires self-trust. It requires letting go of the belief that love must be earned through labor. Many men believe they are being strong by doing more, but real strength is restraint. Real strength is choosing rather than pleading. When you control emotional gravity, you are not controlling another person. You are controlling yourself. You are setting the tone by how you move through the world, how you respond instead of react, how you give without depleting yourself. Women feel desperation even when it is unspoken, even when it hides behind good manners and helpful gestures. And desperation, no matter how well-dressed, repels rather than attracts. That is why trying to attract women through constant availability often backfires. Availability without direction feels hollow. Attention without boundaries loses its edge. You must understand that emotional gravity is created when your life has weight of its own, when your time matters to you, when your values guide your choices, when you are not orbiting around her moods, but inviting her into your world. That is not indifference. That is leadership of the self. And this is where masculine energy becomes magnetic rather than forced. Masculine energy is not about control over others. It is about clarity within yourself. It is about being comfortable, standing still instead of chasing reassurance. Be the man who gives from fullness, not fear. Be the man who listens but does not disappear. Be the man who shows care without turning care into currency. That is how a high-value man operates. He does not negotiate attraction. He allows it to unfold. He understands that loyalty grows where respect and emotional safety meet excitement, not where pressure and performance live. If you want to attract women in a lasting way, stop trying to manage outcomes. Focus on your internal state. Focus on how you show up emotionally. Focus on whether you are acting from choice or from anxiety. That shift alone changes the entire dynamic. That is the core truth most men were never taught. Women are not loyal to what you do for them. They are loyal to the emotional experience of being with you. They are loyal to the version of themselves that emerges in your presence. And when you understand that, you stop exhausting yourself. You stop performing. You stop trying to earn what can only be invited. You become steadier, clearer, more grounded, and that is when attraction stops feeling like work and starts feeling like alignment. That is when masculine energy settles in naturally. That is when you attract women without chasing. And that is when loyalty, real loyalty, finally has a reason to stay if this truth hits you. Comment this below. Right now, I am the source, not the seeker. Like the video, subscribe for more unshakable psychological power. And remember, this daily, a man who controls his emotions controls the room. 3. When women actually leave. Here's the truth. Most men learn too late, and it needs to be said cleanly, clearly, and without sugarcoating. Women don't walk away because a man struggles, fails, or makes mistakes. They walk away when his inner frame collapses, when his certainty erodes, when his emotional center no longer feels solid. Attraction and loyalty respond to structure, not effort in modern life. This shows up everywhere in marriages, long relationships, even late-life partnerships, where a man slowly shifts from calm direction to emotional negotiation, from grounded presence to constant explanation, from quiet confidence to seeking approval. The moment that shift happens, the emotional experience changes, not dramatically, not with shouting or betrayal, but suddenly, like air leaking from a tire. That's when connection weakens. Marcus Aurelius said the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, and this is old Stoic wisdom in action. When a man's thoughts turn inward toward fear, doubt, and reassurance, seeking his behavior follows when behavior changes. Perception changes, and perception determines desire. The issue is never doing more favors, talking more, apologizing more, or explaining feelings more. The issue is losing the calm authority that once made her feel emotionally safe. Safety here does not mean control or force. It means steadiness, predictability, and self-respect. A man who leads his own emotions doesn't need to monitor hers. Epictetus warned, "No man is free who is not master of himself," and that mastery is what Stoicism, when is really about, not silence, not coldness, but emotional command, the iron mind that can listen without crumbling, disagree without panic, and stand firm without aggression in today's world, where constant validation is marketed as love. Men must remember this attraction grows from clarity, not confusion, from boundaries, not pleading, from direction, not reaction. Stop asking if everything is okay every time there's tension. Stop apologizing when you've done nothing wrong. Stop explaining the same point 5 different ways, hoping it will land. Say less, mean more. Let your actions align with your values, because repetition of strength builds trust, and trust sustains connection. As Nietzsche said, he who has a why to live can bear almost any. How your why as a man is to maintain your inner order, regardless of external noise. This is iron mind thinking. This is old Stoic wisdom applied to modern relationships. This is Stoicism, win in real life, where you choose self-command over emotional bargaining, presence over performance, and grounded leadership over approval. When you live this way, you don't chase loyalty, you inspire it. Loyalty does not attach to words, it attaches to psychology, to consistency, to a man who knows who he is, where he stands, and who does not abandon himself under pressure. That is how you master life, not by controlling others, but by becoming unshakable yourself. 4. The power of identity. The real power here is identity. And if you miss this, you miss everything. Because women are not loyal to your effort, your gifts, your patience, or the endless things you do for them. They are loyal to who you are when none of that is on display, to the frame you live in, to the standards you protect, to the way you move through the world without asking for permission. Because identity is felt before it is explained, and that is the quiet truth at the core of female psychology, the part most men never learn. Be clear about this kind. Actions do not create attraction by themselves, Consistency alone does not create loyalty. Overgiving does not create respect. That is not cruelty. That is psychology. When your identity is solid, when you know where you stand and you act from that place, your actions carry weight without effort. And when your identity is shaky, no amount of effort can compensate. No grand gesture can stabilize it. No apology can repair it. Don't confuse motion with direction. Don't confuse attention with value. Be the man who can walk away calmly when boundaries are crossed, not to punish, not to threaten, but because you respect yourself enough to leave situations that don't align with you. That is not emotional distance. That is emotional maturity. You must understand that loyalty follows strength of identity, not intensity of emotion. And this is why men who don't chase, don't beg, don't explain themselves into exhaustion, often inspire deeper attachment. Their behavior signals internal stability. Not indifference, and stability is deeply attractive because it feels safe, grounded, and intentional. This is one of the most misunderstood psychology tricks in modern dating. Women respond to certainty more than sacrifice, clarity more than compliance, presence more than performance. Be present. Be decisive. That is how attraction sustains itself over time when you collapse emotionally. Every time tension appears. When you overinvest to keep someone from leaving, when you trade your standards for approval, you unintentionally communicate that your identity depends on their response, and dependence dissolves desire. Don't do that. Stand still internally even when emotions move. That is how to fall in love without losing yourself. And paradoxically, it is also how women fall in love with you. This is not manipulation, and it is not a game. It is alignment with how attraction actually works in female psychology, where emotional safety comes from knowing a man knows who he is and won't abandon himself to be accepted. Identity is what allows your kindness to be respected instead of taken for granted, your effort to be valued instead of expected, your presence to be missed instead of assumed. You must build that identity daily, through the choices you make when no one is watching, through the standards you enforce quietly, through the calm refusal to tolerate what diminishes. You don't announce it. Don't dramatize it. Just live it. That is the psychology trick that never expires when your identity is clear. Your words land heavier, your silence speaks louder, and your actions feel authentic rather than strategic. This is how to fall in love in a way that lasts, not by trying harder but by becoming steadier. Remember, this loyalty flows toward what feels grounded and away from what feels uncertain. And that is not opinion, that is human nature. Build the identity first, and everything else aligns naturally. If this message hit home, don't just watch and move on. Take a stand, like the video, subscribe for more sharp insight, and share it with a man who needs to hear this today. Then comment this sentence below to lock it in your mind and make it real. My identity comes first, and my actions follow. 5. Obligation versus loyalty. A woman can feel obligated to you, grateful to you, comfortable with you, and still not feel loyal. That truth stings for a reason, because many men confuse appreciation with devotion. They are not the same. Obligation is polite. Loyalty is personal. A woman may stay because you helped her, paid for things, solved problems, showed up when it was convenient. That feels good in the moment. But understand this clearly: obligation is not commitment. Obligation is a transaction. Loyalty is a choice, because loyalty requires one thing above all else: respect. And respect isn't created by what you give someone, it's created by how you value yourself. That is the part most men miss when you build your identity around doing more, fixing more, providing more. You slowly train her to see you as a resource, not a man she admires you. Become useful, predictable, safe, and safety without respect never creates desire. Obligation feels like debt. Loyalty feels like devotion. When a woman stays out of obligation, she's mentally keeping score. Every favor, every sacrifice. Every time you showed up, there is a quiet scoreboard running in her mind, And scoreboards always create pressure, but when a woman is truly loyal, there is no scoreboard. She isn't counting. She isn't calculating. She isn't asking, "What have you done for me lately?" She stays because of who you are, not what you've provided. That distinction matters, a high value. Man doesn't try to buy loyalty with effort. He doesn't trade favors for affection. He doesn't overextend himself, hoping it will be noticed. He knows that real connection starts with self-respect, not self-sacrifice. Be grounded, be consistent, be clear about your standards. That is what activates masculine energy. Not force, not control, but calm certainty. The kind of presence that says, "I choose you, but I don't need you to complete me." Women don't stay loyal to generosity alone. They stay loyal to how a man makes them feel about himself when you respect your time, your boundaries, your purpose. That respect becomes contagious. Don't confuse comfort with attraction. Don't confuse gratitude with loyalty. Don't confuse effort with value. If your goal is to attract women, stop leading with what you can do for them. Lead with who you are when no one is watching. Lead with standards you actually live by. A high-value man understands this. Loyalty is inspired, not negotiated. It grows in the presence of confidence, direction, and emotional steadiness, not an endless giving. You must stop trying to earn devotion and start embodying someone worth choosing. That shift changes everything when your life is full, when your self-respect is non-negotiable, when your masculine energy is calm and centered. Loyalty stops being something you chase, it becomes something you attract. And when a woman stays, then she isn't staying because she owes you, she's staying because she wants to. 6. The momentum principle. The truth men need to hear, especially in modern life, is this. Women are not loyal to promises, history, or effort alone. They are loyal to momentum. Momentum is the visible force of a man moving forward with purpose, clarity, and self-respect. Because when your life is advancing, she naturally feels safe, stepping into your direction. When growth stops, something inside her begins to loosen. Not out of cruelty or calculation, but because attraction lives in the present moment, not in memory. This is not manipulation or psychology tricks. It is human nature observed across centuries, echoed in old Stoic wisdom, and proven daily in real life. Who you are right now speaks louder than who you used to be, louder than what you once did, louder than what you promised you would become. Stagnation quietly drains connection, faster than arguments ever could, faster than distance, faster than disagreement. Because stillness without purpose feels like decay to the human spirit, as Marcus Aurelius wrote. Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight, meaning life rewards motion, not comfort. If you want loyalty, you don't chase it. You generate it by moving forward, by sharpening your skills, strengthening your body, expanding your mission, and refining your character, because progress creates gravity, and gravity pulls people in, especially in a world where most men are standing still, hoping yesterday's effort will pay tomorrow's bills. This is where Stoicism separates the observers from the builders, because a man with an iron mind does not negotiate with stagnation. He treats forward motion as non-negotiable. He understands that attraction responds to certainty, not need to direction, not explanation, and to discipline, not excuses. This is why modern relationships collapse, not from lack of love, but from lack of momentum, because when routines repeat without growth, the relationship feels like a room with no windows, and even loyalty needs air to breathe. The instruction is simple and uncompromising. Keep moving, not recklessly, not obsessively, deliberately. Forward motion signals leadership, and leadership is not control. It is clarity. It is waking up knowing what you are building, and why this aligns deeply with old Stoic wisdom, where men were taught to focus only on what they could improve today, not to cling to comfort or approval. As Epictetus stated, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. which means identity is proven by action, not intention in modern life. This translates to continual self-upgrading learning, new skills, maintaining health, pursuing meaningful work, and holding yourself to standards even when no one is watching. Women consciously or not read this as stability, direction, and emotional safety, not because you perform for them, but because your life has a spine when you stop growing, when your days blur together, when ambition turns into nostalgia. Emotional distance appears without warning, not as punishment but as consequence. The answer is not panic, it is momentum. Momentum restores respect, momentum rebuilds attraction. This is where Stoicism becomes a daily practice, not a philosophy book on a shelf, because a man with an iron mind treats each day as a vote for the future version of himself. He trains his body to stay sharp, his mind to stay curious, and his purpose to stay alive. This forward motion benefits not just relationships, but every area of life, because when you are progressing, you negotiate better, you speak calmer, you react slower, and you move with confidence that does not need validation. As Seneca warned, while we wait for life, life passes, a reminder that hesitation is the real enemy. Not failure, not setbacks, not change in a world where distractions are endless and comfort is easy. Maintaining momentum is an act of discipline and self-respect. You do not argue your way into attraction. You do not explain your potential. You do not relive past victories. You build new ones. Momentum speaks without words. Momentum answers doubts before they are spoken. Momentum creates presence, and presence creates connection. This is the heart of old Stoic wisdom applied to modern life, where men who win do not beg for loyalty. They earn it by living forward. Stoicism. Win is not emotional distance. It is emotional control. It is choosing progress over comfort, discipline over distraction, and purpose over nostalgia. An iron mind understands this truth. Life rewards motion, relationships respond to direction, and loyalty follows the man who refuses to stop becoming. If you're still watching, understand this momentum is the separator most men wait for. Loyalty. Strong men build forward motion and let loyalty follow. Progress is the signal. Growth is the proof. Stagnation is the only real threat. Decide today to move forward no matter how small the step, because who you are becoming right now matters more than who you used to be. Comment this to lock it in. I choose momentum. I move forward every day. 7. How a man handles loss. When a man faces loss, everything about him is revealed, because women are not only paying attention to what he gives, they are deeply loyal to how he carries himself. When things begin to slip away, when plans fail, when attention fades, when silence appears, and when uncertainty enters the room, do not mistake kindness for the currency of attraction. That is not how it works. What truly matters is whether a man stays rooted in himself or lets fear drag him into chaos. Most men unravel at the first sign of loss. They rush to fix. They over-explain. They chase reassurance. They flood messages. They attempt to negotiate emotions like a contract. That behavior feels heavy, not loving. Be clear about this. Desperation is not devotion, and pressure never inspires loyalty. Female psychology responds to emotional steadiness, not emotional noise. A man who can accept the possibility of loss without losing his identity sends a powerful signal, one that bypasses surface-level gestures and speaks directly to instinct. This is one of the psychology tricks most men never learn, because it requires restraint, not effort. When a man says calmly and honestly, "I care about you, but I will not abandon myself to keep you," he creates space instead of tension, mystery instead of panic, respect instead of fatigue. That is how attraction deepens. That is how to fall in love without forcing it. Do not cling, be composed. Do not bargain for attention. Stand firm in your values. A man who remains emotionally grounded shows that his life is full. his purpose intact, and his sense of self unshaken. And female psychology reads that as safety, confidence, and depth. This is why grand gestures often fail while quiet certainty succeeds. You must understand that loss is not the enemy. Losing yourself is the man who can walk through disappointment with dignity, becomes unforgettable because he demonstrates abundance where others reveal scarcity. This is not about manipulation, yet these psychology tricks work because they align with human nature, not against it. When you stop trying to control outcomes and start controlling your response, you shift the entire dynamic. That is how to fall in love without pleading. That is how attraction renews itself. That is how a man becomes irreplaceable. Not by doing more, but by being more present, more centered, and more self-respecting. Because in the end, women are loyal, not to effort alone, but to the emotional strength they can feel when everything is on the line. And that truth sits at the very core of female psychology, how to fall in love, and the psychology tricks that quietly shape connection. 8. Emotional tests. Emotional tests are not planned in a notebook or spoken out loud. They happen quietly, instinctively, almost like a change in the weather, because women don't test men. Logically, they test emotionally, and this is where most men misunderstand the moment and lose their footing. She may pull back just a little. She may answer slower, her tone cools. The warmth pauses. That distance is not an exit sign, that is a mirror. Don't assume danger. Don't rush to fix. Don't flood her with explanations or emotional speeches. That is not strength, that is noise. These moments exist to reveal who you are when reassurance is removed. A high value. Man understands this without being told. He knows silence is information. He knows space is not rejection. Be calm, be grounded, be present without reaching. That is masculine energy in its cleanest form. When a man chases during an emotional test, he shows fear. When he explains himself endlessly, he shows uncertainty. When he panics, he hands over control. That is why chasing fails. That is why over-communicating backfires. You must understand this clearly. Attraction doesn't grow in pressure. It grows in emotional stability. If you want to attract women, your response matters more than your words. What shifts? Everything is restraint paired with presence, not coldness, not distance for revenge, just calm steadiness. The man who stays centered while remaining kind sends a powerful signal. I am comfortable with myself, with or without validation. That message lands deeply. This is how a high-value man stands out without trying. He doesn't disappear to punish. He doesn't lean forward to beg. He stays where he is, balanced, observant, open but not needy. That balance amplifies masculine energy, and feminine psychology responds to it naturally. Don't confuse detachment with indifference. Detachment means you respect yourself enough not to chase approval. Be steady. Be warm but not anxious. Be clear without forcing clarity. That is how emotional tests resolve themselves in your favor, because loyalty grows when a woman feels emotional safety without emotional pressure. Here is the truth. Most men learn too late. Women don't become attached to effort alone. They become attached to how a man regulates himself under uncertainty. That is the test beneath the test. That is why doing more often achieves less, a high value. Man doesn't try to prove his worth in moments of distance. He trusts it. He understands that attraction is not built by convincing, but by consistency. If you want to attract women long-term, you must master your internal reactions before trying to manage external outcomes. Don't react, respond. Don't chase. Stay present. Don't fear silence. Let it speak. That is masculine energy expressed through calm confidence, not performance. When you pass emotional tests this way, loyalty doesn't need to be asked for. It forms quietly, naturally, and deeply because you showed her who you are when comfort was removed. and that is the moment that decides everything. 9. What women are not loyal to. Women are not loyal to over-availability, emotional dependency, people-pleasing, or self-sacrifice without boundaries, and this is not an insult to your effort, but a hard truth about human nature. What feels endlessly available feels replaceable. What gives without limits loses shape. What bends too far, quietly, erases itself. Safety alone does not create desire. Safety without tension creates indifference, and indifference is where connection quietly fades. Understand this clearly, and without resentment. Loyalty is not given to what you do for someone. It is earned by who you are when no one is watching by your standards, your direction, your self-respect, your ability to stand firm and calm under pressure. That is why old Stoic wisdom has always warned men not to live for approval, but for principle, as Marcus Aurelius reminded us. Respect yourself enough to walk away from anything that no longer serves you. That single idea still applies in modern life, where men are taught to give more, explain more, apologize more, and shrink themselves in the hope of being valued. Yet value is never negotiated through sacrifice without limits. It is demonstrated through clarity and strength, through an iron mind that does not chase validation, but builds purpose. People, not just women, respond to presence, certainty, and emotional steadiness, not to desperation disguised as kindness in today's world of constant messaging, instant replies, and emotional oversharing. Restraint has become rare, and rarity creates weight. Slow down, build your life, protect your time. Let your actions speak with quiet authority. Remember Epicurus's words. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Men who win are not loud, not needy, not endlessly accommodating. They are grounded, consistent, and self-directed. That is why Stoicism win is not a slogan, but a strategy for relationships and for life. It teaches that calm confidence outlasts excitement. Self-respect outlasts approval, and discipline outlasts emotion. Repeat this until it settles into your bones. Attraction grows where boundaries exist. Loyalty grows where respect lives, and respect starts with how you treat yourself. Stop over-explaining. Stop over-giving. Stop waiting to be chosen. Start choosing your path, your standards, your mission. When you build a life that is full-structured and meaningful, people feel it without you saying a word, as Seneca said. He who is brave is free, and freedom is magnetic in modern relationships, where chaos is everywhere. This is old Stoic wisdom applied to modern men. This is Stoicism. Win in real life. This is how you forge an iron mind that does not beg for loyalty, but naturally inspires it. By standing tall, living with purpose, and moving forward without apology, when you master yourself, life follows. When you master life, you no longer fear loss. You create choice, strength, and lasting respect. 10. Love is not loyalty. Love is not loyalty, and confusing. The two is where many men quietly lose their footing, because love is emotional, while loyalty is respect-based, and those two forces do not operate on the same timetable or obey the same rules. Love is a feeling. It surges, softens, reacts. It rises when things feel good and retreats when pressure shows up. Respect, on the other hand, is structural. It is built slowly through consistency, self-control boundaries, and how you carry yourself when no reward is guaranteed. A woman can love a man deeply and still walk away if that love is no longer supported by respect, because love alone does not create safety, direction, or trust in the long run. But when respect is present, leaving becomes complicated, heavy, and emotionally costly. That is not a trick, that is human nature, explained through female psychology. Don't confuse doing things for her with being respected by her. Be clear on this: effort without self-respect does not increase loyalty. It often weakens it. Love fluctuates with mood, environment, stress, and novelty. Respect holds its shape regardless of circumstance. That is why chasing emotional highs, overgiving, or constantly proving yourself feels productive but quietly erodes your position. You must understand that attraction and commitment are not sustained by pleasing behavior, but by grounded presence. This is where psychology tricks are misunderstood. The real leverage is not manipulation. It is alignment when your words match your actions, when you don't beg for validation, when you stand by your standards. Calmly, respect grows naturally. And respect is what anchors long-term connection. That is, how to fall in love in a way that lasts by not trying to manufacture love at all. Be steady, be intentional. Don't over-explain. Don't negotiate your values. That is what female psychology responds to over time. Love may come and go, but respect creates gravity. When a man respects himself, he doesn't need constant reassurance. And that quiet certainty is felt immediately. That certainty is not loud. It doesn't chase. It doesn't perform. It simply exists, and that existence communicates more than words ever could. Psychology tricks. When stripped of gimmicks, point back to the same truth again and again. Emotional attraction is reactive, respect is predictive. One tells you how she feels today, the other tells her who you will be tomorrow. If you want to understand female psychology, stop asking how to keep love alive and start asking how to remain respectable under pressure. That is how to fall in love without fear, how to be chosen without pleading, and how to create loyalty without demanding it. If this message resonated with you, like the video, share it with someone who needs this truth. And subscribe for more wisdom about respect, strength, and psychology. Love comes and goes with emotions. Respect is what creates loyalty. When you build respect, you become irreplaceable. Comment below to lock this mindset in your mind. I build respect, and respect makes me unforgettable. Your comment supports the channel and reminds you daily of your value. 11. The real meaning of strength. Real strength is not about tactics, tricks, or performances designed to win approval, and it has nothing to do with pretending not to care. It is about inner stability, psychological gravity, and a calm certainty that does not ask for permission, because women, like life itself, respond to clarity, consistency, and emotional self-command. Not endless gestures or people-pleasing. This truth has echoed through old Stoic wisdom for centuries, where a man was measured not by what he gave away to be liked, but by what he could stand firm in without applause. Marcus Aurelius warned, "Never be dependent on the admiration of others." And that single line explains why loyalty follows presence, not performance. When you know your value at a deep level, you stop negotiating it, you stop chasing reactions, you stop over-explaining, and you start moving with quiet authority, which modern life desperately lacks as men are trained to seek validation through effort instead of cultivating emotional independence. Real strength is being able to care without clinging to commit, without losing yourself to desire, without surrendering your center, and to walk away from disrespect with a steady heart, even when it costs you comfort. As Epictetus said, if you want to be invincible, make no treaty with what is not under your control, and respect is never under your control when you beg for it. Psychology follows patterns, and the strongest pattern is self-trust, because people trust those who trust themselves. Relationships stabilize around men who are grounded, and attraction grows where there is emotional restraint and direction, not excess explanation or emotional flooding. This is where Stoicism becomes more than a phrase. It becomes a daily practice of choosing composure over reaction, clarity over chaos, and standards over impulse in a world of noise. The man with an iron mind stands out without trying because he does not rush, he does not plead, he does not perform. He observes, decides, and acts. That calm decisiveness creates safety, which is the foundation of loyalty, both in relationships and in life. Seneca wrote, "He is powerful who has power over himself," and that power shows up today when you don't argue with disrespect, don't chase mixed signals, don't explain boundaries, and don't outsource your worth to another person's mood. This is not about games. It is about alignment, because when your actions match your values, people feel it immediately, and when they don't, no strategy will save you. Old Stoic wisdom teaches that peace comes from self-mastery. Stoicism reminds you that discipline builds confidence, and an iron mind keeps you steady when emotions surge. Because victory in modern life is not loud. It is consistent. It is calm. It is repeatable. And the man who masters himself masters his relationships, his work, and his direction, not by force, but by presence. That is the kind of strength that endures confidence and attention with worth. So, let's slow this down and get precise. This isn't about being cold or manipulative or uncaring. That line matters because real strength has nothing to do with emotional games or pretending you don't feel. Don't shut down your heart. Be grounded in it. That is the difference. True strength begins with self-containment, the quiet ability to hold your own center, no matter who comes or goes. It is knowing your value so deeply that you don't need constant validation, applause, or reassurance to feel steady. A high-value man doesn't announce his worth. He lives it. He doesn't chase approval. He attracts alignment. That inner stability is what people feel before they understand it. And yes, it's one of the clearest ways to attract women without trying to impress them. Real strength is self-containment. That means you can sit with discomfort without outsourcing your peace. Don't beg to be chosen. Be someone who chooses himself. First, you must understand this. When your sense of self depends on someone else's response, your energy becomes restless. But when you are whole on your own, your presence becomes calm, grounded, unmistakable. That calm is masculine energy in its most natural form. Not forceful, not performative, just solid. This is why a high-value man can love deeply without losing himself in the process. It's being able to love someone without needing them to complete you. Love is no longer a transaction. It becomes a choice. You show up because you want to, not because you're afraid of being alone. That freedom changes everything. It allows you to attract women who respond to stability, not pressure. Then comes the hardest part. The part most people avoid. It's having the courage to walk away from disrespect, even when it hurts. Don't explain yourself endlessly. Don't negotiate your dignity. Be clear. That is strength in motion. Walking away doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you cared enough about yourself to draw a line. You must be willing to lose what disrespects you to protect what you are becoming. That willingness creates a quiet authority that words can't manufacture. This is masculine energy expressed through restraint, not reaction through standards, not speeches. When you honor yourself this way, you stop chasing connection and start attracting it naturally. That is how a high-value man moves through the world. Steady, intentional, self-directed. So don't confuse strength with hardness. Be warm but not porous. Be loving but not dependent. Be present but not desperate. That is how you attract women who respect you, not because of what you do for them, but because of who you are when no one is watching. All right, my friend. Before we end this video, let me say this clearly. If you've ever felt confused, rejected, or blindsided after giving your best, you're not broken and you're not crazy. You were just taught the wrong lessons. This was never about doing more, proving more, or sacrificing yourself until there's nothing left. It was about growth, about direction, about becoming a man who moves forward with purpose. Here's my honest advice to you. Stop chasing loyalty through effort. Start earning it through strength, self-respect, and presence. Build your life. Sharpen your mind and stay grounded in who you are. When you grow, everything around you responds differently, including women. Don't argue with reality. Learn it. Use it. Let it make you better. Not bitter. If this video brought you clarity, do yourself a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep learning. There's more truth here than most people are willing to say out loud. Take care of yourself, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video.